Lease Options Made Simple mind map. How you doing on Facebook and YouTube? I'm going to jump right in, and today I'm going to do another example deal of what a wholesaling lease option deal is, giving you an example from just the other day. So if you want this mind map, again, text the letters WLO for wholesaling lease options. Text the letters WLO to 313131 to get this mind map, okay? So if you have any questions as I go through this, please type them in the questions and comments box in Facebook there or in YouTube, and I'll do my best to answer them, all right? So let's just dive right into this thing. As another example, again, so you want to find a house on Craigslist. And just the other day, I was speaking at Sean Terry's Extreme Freedom Live event, and as an example, while I was waiting to speak, I got on Craigslist and actually I found about 7 or 8 different Craigslist ads, and I sent them a text message. Each of the 7 or 8 ads, I sent a simple text message, hey, would you consider maybe doing a lease purchase on your house or something? And I got a lot of people that responded no, and I had one person that responded yes. And so basically what I did is I went to Craigslist and went into apartment housing. I did something like this. I wanted just nicer homes. So I did $1,500 a month plus, 3 bedrooms. I did a negative keyword like apartment and apartment. So I was taking out any ads that had the word apartment or apartments in it. And I just started going through this like this, looking at houses. I'll zoom in a little bit. And if it had a phone number like this one does, bam, I just sent them a text. Hey, would you consider a rent to own? Okay. Went to the next property. I avoid kind of house ads that look like that, kind of spammy or whatnot. Serious inquiries only. Okay, I don't care if it's a professional realtor or a property manager or an investor. I'm still going to send them a text message anyway. Okay. And by the way, and I'll get into this later on. I have a spreadsheet where you can track numbers, and it'll notify you when it's a duplicate, somebody that you've contacted in the past. All right. And I just went through a bunch of houses, and I sent them text messages. All right. And if the ad doesn't have a phone number in it, then you can just send them an email. Click the reply button, and sometimes you can just send them an email if they'll let you. Okay. In fact, let me just show you an example here. So there's an email that you can send to. Okay. So this particular house looked like this. I'll just open it up here for you. It's kind of small, but oops. It was a simple house, $1,200 a month, 3 bedroom, and I sent the guy a text message that, hey, would you consider a rent to own? He said, yeah, it's actually for sale right now for 175 something. So I immediately, as soon as he responded yes, I immediately called him, but he was at work or something and he couldn't talk, so I was exchanging text messages with him back and forth. And I'm going to show you the kind of the proposal that I sent to him so you can see what I'm talking about. So first let me show you, there's a spreadsheet in the mind map here that you can get your hands on. It's called How the Numbers Work. It's a simple spreadsheet that kind of explains this stuff because I know a lot of you guys may not understand how the numbers work. So the house he wanted 175, it's worth about 175. I just went to Redfin, looked at some quick comps in Redfin, active and sold comps. And the minimum price the seller wanted was 175. If you add on the option deposit, that's my assignment fee. That's how I make my profit. And then you add on rent credits or seller concessions. It's about $3,600. Okay, $150 a month for 24 months. And so I just put another column here for the actual numbers. So I'm going to advertise the property for $183,500. Okay, and as you're comparing it to as you're comparing these numbers and you're talking about this to a seller. This is kind of maybe a helpful thing to look at. So when you're selling the house the traditional way, you're going to have a lot of costs associated with selling a house. So if you list it for 175, I could show you stats. I could show the seller stats that in this market, even right now the market's coming back up, the average discount between the original list price and the final sale price is about 8 to 10%. And so if you factor that number in, and you figure you got a realtor commission you've got to pay, you're going to have to pay closing costs. Sometimes the buyer will ask you to pay closing costs. Sometimes not, but you're going to have your own closing costs. Then you're going to have carrying costs. You're going to have to fix inspection items. You're going to have to stage the house. And all that's going to total to about 3%, which means at the end of the day, you're going to walk away with about 143, which is what here, if I do a formula to show the percent, it's about a little more than 19, 20%, 18% maybe. So if you feel like these numbers are a little big, then you can adjust them a little bit. Maybe make this a 0.5 or something. So basically, the seller's going to walk away with about 10 to 15% less than what the original list price was. But if they did a lease option, they're going to walk away with a lot more money than that, right? So then you can walk through these numbers. Let's say we do a lease option for 175. You're not going to have any to discount anything. You're not going to have to pay any commissions. You're not going to have to pay any closing costs, okay? You're not going to have the miscellaneous costs as well. And but this is how the numbers work for the assignment fees, and I'll explain this in more detail in a little bit here. So the option deposit, you add 3%. I keep that, so you subtract 5% or 3% again. Then you're going to credit, the seller's going to credit that money to the tenant buyer at closing of $5,000. And they're also, seller's going to also credit the rent credits of, well, it's $3,500, isn't it? Of $3,500, okay? And usually there's a little bit of cash flow, so about $100 a month, for example. So at the end of the day, the seller's going to walk away with about $165. I just found out what my problem was. Okay, the lease option price is not $175. It is actually $183,500. All right, so $183,500 plus $5,000 minus $5,000 minus $5,000. Okay, minus rent credits plus a little bit of cash flow. So the seller's going to walk away with $176,200. Which is about $28,000 more than they would have walked away with if they sold it the traditional route. They're just going to have to wait a little bit for that, okay? Does that make sense? So that's how the numbers work. I bumped the price up, and I'll cover that again here in the mind map, just so I'm very, very clear. So I calculated, for this particular seller in Phoenix, I calculated 3 quick offers, and I sent them a 3 quick option letter of intent. So if you look at this spreadsheet, and you can get access to this as well, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I give the seller 3 options. The first one is cash offer. The second one is sandwich lease option, or my perfect tenant program, where I'm going to stay in the middle. And the third one is a lease option assignment, where I'm just going to assign my interest away, okay? So if you put the numbers in here, Phoenix is a hot market. The after repair value is $175, so I'm doing about 70% of ARV for a discount, about 1,500 square foot. And the seller was repairing some things, so I did about $5 a square foot for repairs, cosmetics, okay? So I'm estimating about $7,500 for repairs, and I want a $10,000 wholesale fee. Make that $7,500 if you want, or whatever, right? So my cash price is going to be $125 to the seller. My lease option, my sandwich lease option price is going to be market rent minus $300 for the cash flow that I want to keep. I want at least 15% equity in each deal, and I want at least 5 years, and I'm going to put down a $1,000 option consideration, okay? So then my second price is going to be $141, so it jumps up $15,000, $16,000 there, right? And the rent I'm going to pay them is $900. This is my perfect tenant program. I'm going to be talking about this more as we go along through this mind map, but I'm going to be the tenant buyer. I'm going to be paying the rent, whether it's vacant or not. I'm going to be fixing the house, taking care of it all during that 5 years. And then I'll show you in a minute what the profit's going to be, and it's pretty amazing. It's really good. And then the lease option assignment, I'm going to give the seller whatever price they want. They want $175, $185. I don't care. I'm going to give the seller whatever price they want, and I'm just going to sell my lease option contract then to a tenant buyer. So that's my third option. So it jumps from $125 to $141 to $175. Okay, and the rent goes from $900, where I'm staying in the middle, to $1,200, which all goes to the seller on the lease option assignment round. But on the lease option assignment, again, the seller's responsible for anything that could go wrong with the property during that lease option period. Okay, and let me just show you real quick how the numbers work on the sandwich lease option. It's pretty amazing. Let's say I have 5 years with the seller, but I put a tenant buyer in it and I sell it within 3 years. So let's just say it's 36 months. The current value is $175. You can get away with charging a 3 to 5% premium on a house if it's a lease option. So I'm doing 3% premium. I'm expecting 3% a year appreciation. So at the end of the day, my sale price to that tenant buyer is going to be $196. Remember, what was my offer? My option price to the seller, it's $141, right? So there's about $300 a month cash flow, and my purchase price is $141. I'm crediting the tenant buyer some rent credits, and I have some costs of about 3% during the entire transaction. So I'm actually going to profit $54,000 on a property that I'm getting at just 15% below current market value. Now let's say you go in here and you say, all right, well, I only want 10% equity. Okay, so I'm going to give the seller a $150,000 option price. Well, you look at this, I'm still walking away then with $45,000 And there's at least, how much in equity in this thing? Well, forgetting the cash flow, about $35,000 in gross equity in this property, approximately, just looking at these numbers. So it's a pretty great deal, right? $45,000 if I'm going to stay in the middle. So listen, this has gone, well, let me just share here. This is the letter of intent. It's just a letter saying, hey, it was nice talking to you about your house. This isn't the exact letter I sent. I had changed the sentence a little bit so it made sense to the conversation that I was having with this with the seller. And this is where you put your numbers. This is where you're going to put the cash price that you're offering here. And in this case, it was $125, right? $125. This is where you put the cash price. Then the lease option price is $150, $900 a month, $150 and $900 a month. Oops, option consideration. And then $900. 5 years. And then the final one was $175, wasn't it? And I'm going to do option consideration of $100, and the rent will be $1,200, something like that, okay? And I do offer a fourth option for consulting, and I'll talk about that later. And so then, rent, so, and what, $150 a month in rent credits for 24 months. My profit is the $5,000 that the tenant buyer puts down as an option consideration, and because it goes to my escrow company, they get that credited back to them in the future when they buy the house. So that's my assignment fee. What does the seller walk away with? They walk away with the difference of those things. 183 minus 5,000 minus 3,500. They walk away with 175 approximately. Okay? And during this time, I am not responsible for making any payments before I find a tenant buyer. I'm not responsible for making any payments after the tenant buyer moves in. Let me just get that right there. I'm not responsible for any of the maintenance or repairs. I was in a hurry typing this. And, okay, I'm not responsible if the tenant buyer doesn't buy the house or gets evicted. I'm not responsible for that. And the most I have to risk is a $100 option deposit that I put down at the beginning. Okay, does that make sense? Then the seller signs all the documents. I've talked about this before. I do some signs, put the property on Craigslist, put it on Zillow. And really, if you do those three things and you don't find a good tenant buyer within 4 weeks and something's wrong, it's probably overpriced or it's just really butt ugly and you need to do something else. Get another house. The paperwork is real simple. The short offer form, I'll walk through that later. That's as soon as the seller says, yeah, I want to do a lease option, I'm going to send them a one-page short offer form. And then my attorney handles the rest of the paperwork after we find a tenant buyer. Okay? So the tenant buyer will sign, I'll sign a new lease and an option agreement with the seller. And then I'll assign those two documents to the tenant buyer. So there's an assignment agreement, there's a seller's disclosure, and of course lead-based paint. Now everything goes in escrow. So the tenant buyer sends the money to the escrow company, which is my attorney that does this. And then the escrow company also collects the rent every month and pays the mortgage. So you know it's getting paid every month, right? And then the escrow company distributes the money. Is that cool? So that's an example deal from beginning to end. I could have walked through a ton of deals that I've done in the past. I just wanted to show you this particular deal I just found the other day in Phoenix in another market where I was speaking at an event. And we had 20 minutes to call a bunch of sellers. Instead of calling, I just like sending text messages because then I can just talk to the people who raise their hands. And so within a few minutes, I found a seller that said, yeah, I'll do it. By the way, this seller did, after I sent the proposal to them, he said, no, I'm not interested. And that's okay. This guy was playing a little hard to get for some reason. When I tried to call him, he couldn't talk. And he said I had to text him. And then he wouldn't give me the address. And which is really strange. So I said, listen, never mind, forget it. And I was pulling away, and I said, I'm not going to help you. There's nothing I can do for you then. And then he came back and said, yeah, okay, well, the address is this. And so basically, I just didn't feel like it was going to be a deal anyway, but I still sent it to him. And if I was interested in doing deals in Phoenix, I would continue to follow up with him because the guy had it for rent and he wanted to sell it. So lease options are perfect for him. Now, if this was in my market, I would have probably scheduled a time to go meet him at the house and lock up the property under contract in person if I could. So I would have scheduled an appointment with him or something like that. So listen, if you want more information, if you want to get this mind map for free, text WLO to 313131. I have a webinar. Watch the webinar on wholesaling lease options at WLOwebinar.com. If you want personal coaching with me, Book a call strategy session at coachjoe.net. From that page, you'll be asked some simple questions. And if we feel like you're a good fit, we like what you have to say, you can join our tribe and become a member of my awesome lease options coaching program. You can also join my Facebook group here. Just go to Facebook, do a search for wholesaling lease options, and you'll see the group. And stick around. I'm going to be doing more of these videos. What's next? I don't know. I'll probably be talking about different ways to find sellers. I'm going to be talking about different types of marketing, the marketing that works best without spending a ton of money. In fact, without even spending any money, you can find probably more leads than you can handle if you're smart. Cool? So again, if you want this mind map, text the letters WLO to 313131. All right, take care, guys. See ya.